You ready? I'm ready.
I was gonna say, let's not do an intro this time, because it's just us.
Well, I was just gonna go welcome to Not a Real Artist.
Yeah, okay, we can do that too.
You don't want to do it?
Well, it's not that I don't want to do it, it's just that it's always the same. People might think, oh, this is the same episode that I've already listened to, but I want people to know this is a different one.
Okay, then we won't do it.
Okay, well, let's do it.
No. Okay, we do it, but we don't need to put it in.
Okay. Hi, Tamara.
Hi, Iris. This is super... It feels a bit awkward, yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to you in a very long time.
It's a first date.
Yeah, a first date,
Yeah.
like the loving was good, but you're not sure if the other person has changed so much between then and now.
Oh, do you still like me?
Yeah, or do we still like the same things?
I was listening to something, or reading something, I don't know, somewhere I came across this concept that actually it's really important that when you relate to someone and stuff, that you're not just looking for a carbon copy of yourself, that you can appreciate somebody else for not just the things that they like that are similar to what you like, but also the things that they like that are different. Obviously, I'm not talking about like super different values where one person, actively doesn't want the other person to exist. I'm talking more about like, hey, you like football. I don't like football, but I like that you like football. And I'm like, yeah, you can like football. I like that for you, you know?
Yeah, soccer. You mean soccer?
Oh, yeah. For our international non-British listeners, do they say soccer in South Africa?
Yeah, we say soccer in South Africa. Some people do say football, and I prefer rugby, actually. I think if you had a friendship with someone or a conversation and you were exactly the same, it's just like sitting in an echo chamber, just maybe with a small window installed. So yeah, I 150% agree with you. I think also it would be horrible because the other person would be, maybe for me, really irritating, and I would realize that I am just irritating.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, if I have a conversation like with someone who is literally exactly like me, am I going to be just like bugged to death? Because I'll be so triggered.
Like, how much can you talk about racism? Like, get over it.
I wanted to actually, no, seriously, I wanted to ask you, like, how are you? How have you been? What's going
Ooh.
on in the life of Tamara? I'm talking, I guess I do want to give a slight direction to this question. I am talking mostly like creatively. How have you been creatively?
Oh, okay. Thanks for saying creatively, because I was just going to talk about my personal life. Weird. Things are weird. I think I'm still recovering from my thoughts when I was ill. And listening to the episode with Yu Chao, I could, which is an episode I think episode 13. I can't remember the number. Listening to that episode, and it made me realize like in what a space of hatred I was with regards to my art. And as much as I am making stuff and I'm kind of happy with it, it's also a lot of stuff that is just for me. And the other part of my creativity is not just me, it's this part that needs to show itself to the world or needs to be a teacher or an artist that's also, I hate to say it, but a content creator. So it's just been weird. I don't know if that's a good enough answer.
Well, it is an answer. I mean, I think the only person who can judge if it's good enough is you. Have you said everything you want to say?
No, I have said everything I want to say, but I just think if somebody says it's weird, then like, what does weird mean? It can mean so many different things to so many different people. It just doesn't feel as flowy as I would like it to be, but it is as flowy as it is. And I think there's a lot of acceptance also that I'm practicing towards the cycle that I'm in. What about you?
Yeah, that what you're saying sounds really familiar to me, but in a different way. As in, like, I haven't felt the inclination to use the word weird, but I am also in a cycle or in a season or whatever where things are not ideal, not the way that I would plan them on paper, as in like, this is my ideal creative life. It's not like that at all at the moment. I have not really been creating very much. I'm trying to figure out for myself, like, how much is that to do with external circumstances beyond my control, and how much is that to do with just what things are like internally at the moment? Am I just in a kind of phase of my emotional state where making art is not something that I'm drawn to or want to do or want to make time for? Or is it simply that my life is really busy right now with my day job in a way that it hasn't been previously? And is that the thing that is influencing it? Or, realistically speaking, it's probably a bit of both. It's funny because talking to you and having this almost like a breathing space of just kind of, it's like I'm feeling a lot of space around me at the moment in this particular moment of recording this podcast. And I'm like immediately feeling inspired. I'm immediately feeling like I'm getting into that zone of like an emotional state that to me is the best way of being creative. Like it's the way of being that propels me to my art desk. But that feeling of the feeling of space and the feeling of propulsion to my art desk, I am not feeling in my life at the moment because I just don't feel like I have time. I'm so busy with like other tasks. I want to be careful in like, I don't want to call them shoulds because they're not just shoulds. It's like, I run a business with my husband. It's really important and I'm really grateful to it. And a big part of me is very happy to do all of that work. And I'm good at it as well. So there's a lot of satisfaction there. But at the same time, right now, it's taking away from this little part of myself. Like, I think I call it the soul part of myself. The room that I need to be creative is not really there because I'm so busy. And then when I come out of the busyness, I'm like, I can't just like click my fingers and switch over to Creative Iris. Creative Iris needs quite a lot of like time space continuum to get into that creative and emotional state. So it just isn't happening at the moment. And maybe that's okay. I am playing a lot of Minecraft though, and I love playing Minecraft. So that is, you know, fulfilling a need of mine at the moment.
When you said space time continuum, I thought instead of Doctor Who, you're Doctor Huh? I think when you mention the shoulds, I think they're more needs. You need to do that, yeah. You need to get bread and butter on the table as well, or whatever current diet you might be. What do you eat all the time? Those
Crispy
minis,
minis. Yeah.
yeah,
Weetabix crispy
to get
minis.
minis on the
Yeah.
table. I wanted to ask you, do you have confidence that there's an end in sight? Because with me, at some point, I didn't feel like there was an end in sight. And this is why I'm asking the question. And it felt so much more heavier. And now, when I'm like, okay, it's a cycle, just like winter, whatever, I feel a little bit lighter. I feel some hope that Tamara, the artist, is going to come out again.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if but the thing is, it's like I think when you're asking that, it's am I in this dynamic feeling like, oh, I'm just going through this, I need to get through this and then I'll come out the other side. And I don't think I'm experiencing it that way because I am very busy and I do wish for slight less busyness. But at the same time, first of all, I don't know. I can't predict the future because I've never been through this before with our business. Like, this is quite new. So it's not like I can say like, oh, well, usually, yeah, we are busy in the summer and then it's going to tail off again in the winter or something. That might happen. It might not happen. I don't know at this point. So it really is more about, I don't know, and I'll just have to wait and see. But I do hope and I'm trying, like, actively trying to kind of maintain a balance. And I do feel like this is a process. This isn't like, oh, I need to just get through this and then once it's over, then I can have balance. I think that I am actively trying to have balance within this busyness and see whether that's something that's possible for me.
And I would argue that is probably the better way to do it, but also a lot more difficult. Like, in the moment, you're also at the data collection phase
Yeah.
because you don't understand what's happening. You also said that it takes a lot of time for you to like change between work Iris and creative
Well,
Iris.
it's not actually even a lot of time. It's just having time. And it's like, so let's say I had an hour of time. It might be enough time in a real sense, in a way of like an hour is this much time, but I might not feel like that's enough time because I don't know how long it's going to take me to get into that zone. And I had this yesterday where I had an art date with my friend Miranda, which was great because if I have an art date, then I'm going to actually go to my art desk. It's like, because I've got an appointment, But I did notice that it took me at least 45 minutes before I started feeling that relationship with me and my art, where it kind of just feels like I'm a bit more in flow. I'm enjoying myself, or even if I'm not enjoying myself, I am at least kind of grabbing for the different things in a kind of an automatic way, which is very much part of my intuitive way of making art. And that was 45 minutes, but if all I have is an hour, I mean, I luckily I had a little bit more than an hour to have my art date with her. It was about an hour and a half, so I was like, half the time it was kind of like not creative flow, and then half the time it kind of was. But if I only have half an hour, or I have an hour but it takes me 45 minutes to get into flow, and then I have to like stop again because I've got to do something else, it's very painful. And I kind of do feel like I want to cut myself some slack, and also, I don't just mean cut myself slack, but like have some empathy and understanding for myself that, sure, it's so natural that I then wouldn't want to go and walk to my art desk, because that's like, that's a bit too painful. And also, I don't want to feel resentful. Like, I think that it might also be a protective mechanism, that if I were to try and do more art and find, hey, I actually like, I keep having to walk away when I'm in flow and I want to keep going, but I can't because I've got other responsibilities, I might end up resentful about the other things that I have to do, as opposed to just not really engaging in things that would make that resentment more apparent. I don't know.
No, I hear you. It's this deeper intelligence. But I think just like you saying it's painful to be pulled away from flow is such an accurate statement, even though I don't have many things that are needs, because we were talking about shoulds and needs, yeah? I still also find it extremely painful that I need to walk away and cook now. Like, who needs to eat? And I hear you, because I felt resentful just yesterday that I needed to leave what I was doing when I finally started painting and cook a meal. And it was for myself also. It wasn't like it was for anyone else. So Iris, are we not a real, are we really like embodying the title? Are we embodying the title of our podcast now? We're not real artists. I'm just being facetious. Of course we're still
I
artists.
think it's a good question. I mean, I think we are real artists, but I think it does also show that real artists are so many different things. And it's not just about output, it's not just about time spent. It's about, like, being a real artist inside all of the other things in life, as opposed to some idealized version of, like, well, real artist is like a person by themselves smoking lots of cigarettes surrounded by paint.
Oil paint, preferably.
No other people, no dependents, kind of like an isolated artist's life. I think that's like,
Yeah, the exceptions.
yeah, that's I think we're changing the story.
It's a part of me that I haven't spoken out yet or written out. I have not thought about it, but there is a very big narrative in my head going on that's like, you need to go back to work. Like, you need to go and get yourself a corporate job again, because all the time that you're wasting not being creative, you would have been doing a job and adding value in that way. It's a big conversation about value as well. Just hearing you, it's I mean, obviously, logically we know it, but hearing you say that like being creative is not just like going to the desk and switching it on. Because even things like recording a lesson, it takes such a different energy. And I'm trying very hard to like talk nicely to myself and say, hey Tam, like recording a lesson is hard. Whereas the other part's like, you just switch on the camera. Like, what's your problem? So it's nice to hear you saying it, because I think as much as I'm trying to accept it, there is that part of me in the back of my head that's very loud. That's like, you you are lazy and you're useless and you're a full-time artist. Where's your art? But yeah, it's also a different energy and it's hot. So like, leave me alone.
I do think that sometimes when you're working towards, as an artist, painting certain things or expressing certain things, I don't just mean painting, because it could be, you could be a poet, a composer, or whatever, but when you really are trying to express something, move towards something, move closer to yourself, and if that is something that you find difficult, and I mean, obviously I can only speak for myself, I find that difficult, then it's easier to struggle, I think, and to not do it, because it's so tied up with, I don't know, with moving closer to yourself and not knowing and having to spend a lot of time in very uncomfortable spaces, as opposed to if you are an artist and, let's say you get commissioned to do, I don't know, pet portraits. That requires an enormous amount of skill, and I imagine it might be also slightly intimidating, but I don't know if it's the same type of soul work as and the pet portrait is like just an example. I'm not putting people down who do that, like much admiration, but I'm just trying to find an example of saying, like, when things are emotionally loaded, they are so much harder, and it requires a real kind of, I don't want to make it sound as if like, oh, you can just go and do that. Well,
Mm.
just go and paint, because sometimes it's not that easy. The just go and paint is just impossible. And then you have to kind of trust that, yes, actually you are an artist still, and this is a season, or this is a cycle, or this is a process, and you're going to go through it, and you're not going to strong arm yourself or flagellate or whatever, and you are going to at some point paint again, but then also paint again and find that you have got closer, because the part of not painting, the journey, or the journey of struggling, is part of that journey of getting closer to the what's important, as opposed to that we're just static and it's just a tap that you turn on and off, and like sometimes you turn the tap on and sometimes you turn it off, but there has been no movement along the path. I kind of feel like I like to think of it more as a path, and sometimes you're running down the path, sometimes you're walking, sometimes you're standing still, sometimes you meander off the path and then you come back to it with like after a circuitous route, but in the end you're always on a path, and it's always a path without a path it's always a path without a destination, but it is a path.
I really like that metaphor, and I really like that reminder. It's good to remember that all the parts of my life are just not isolated blocks. They are part of a whole. It can feel like that, but it's not true. When you zoom out of the picture, I'm sorry. When you zoom out of the picture, you hear your dog barking. It's all pixels, yeah? So it makes a huge picture. Here's another metaphor. Everybody's greedy and hungry for metaphors. Meteor-phores.
No, but like what you say about the pixels, and then when you zoom out, it's a picture. I was thinking about something similar actually, about the path metaphor that I just said, and it's so often that you can't necessarily see the path, and some days you can only see your feet, some days you can see like a few meters ahead, some days it's a clear day and you can see very far ahead. But really, the only path that you know is there, is the one that's behind you, because you turn around and you look and you see the path that you've been on, and that one is quite solid. It's literally there. And also another thing that I've been thinking about recently is about how things take time. I was thinking about my relationship with my husband actually, and how we've been together for uh 18 years or something, and that there are certain things about a relationship, and not just a relationship, but anything that you relate to, that takes time. It's like I could write down all of the wisdom that I have after 18 years of a relationship, and I could give it to someone who's like 19 years old, is that's the age that I was when I met Andrew, and I can give all that knowledge, and that still doesn't replace the 18 years of lived experience. And I think that sometimes, we forget that. And I feel like I have forgotten that, or not just forgotten, I have lived my life for such a long time, not really understanding or valuing that the time put into something, but also just the concept of time passing, and things changing. Like, for example, one minute you're really angry, and then time passes and your feelings kind of ebb, and like, it kind of like gets better, or something like that. That those kind of things I completely didn't realize when I was younger, that they were a thing, that almost as if time didn't exist, as if everything had to be now, everything had to be on, and if it wasn't on, then it was off, and if it was off, then you could at some point switch it on, as opposed to things taking time and things being a process. And yeah, I hope I'm making sense, but that's kind of
You
something that
are.
I'm becoming more aware of.
I think it's also like there's something to do with age. I think that makes you more receptive to wisdom, but also you're 19. I don't know if this is true, but your brain is not fully developed. And reading words of an experience or even hearing somebody's voice on an experience is very different from living it. The emotions, the smells, the sounds, all of that shit makes such a sorry, all of those senses make such a big impact that it becomes a true lesson learned. Because there's lots of things that I've gone through that my mother told me a million, thousand, whatever the number is times, and I was just like, ugh, leave me alone. What you're saying about time is interesting because I don't know if I have the same experience, but what I'm thinking about is I used to be everything is black and white. It's either you're right or you're wrong, binary. And now it's like I'm like every single shade in the rainbow, It's not just right or wrong. There's always an in between and a thousand like things, maybe except murdering people sometimes. So I really value that. And I don't know if it is just age or time or experience or what it is, but I think it's one of the nicest things about growing older. By the way, my birthday soon. Don't forget my birthday, Iris.
Oh shit, I haven't turned over my calendar. So, when
It
was it? It was
passed
like it
the
was some.
7th of the 7th.
When is your birthday?
The 7th of the 7th. No, the
It's
17th. The
the
17th
17th.
of
I
the
thought I
7th.
thought it was the 17th. Okay. So, in February, Tamara sends me a message going, "You never said happy birthday to me." And I'm like, "Shit, when was your birthday? Have I written it on my birthday calendar? I have a really nice birthday calendar." And then turns out she's like, "Yeah, oh yeah, it was in July." I'm like, "What the fuck, Tamara?" So anyway, her birthday is on my birthday calendar now. However, it's kind of like it's in like this little funny nook of my art space, and it's hard to reach. So very often, like I forget to turn it over, and it's currently still on May. So I'm really sorry if you had a birthday in June and I forgot to congratulate you. It's just because I didn't turn over my calendar. Yeah, so I'm gonna like BRB. I'm just gonna go do that now. No, I'm not because I'm wedged in here. But
Happy birthday to John. 2nd of June. I'm not that big on birthday wishes. Like I appreciate it, and I think that it's very important to some people. But if you don't wish me, we're easy.
Yeah, but I'd feel bad if I forgot your birthday.
You haven't forgotten it yet. I'm turning an age. I'm turning 35, and I've had no, like, this is what I wanted to say. I've had no time to think about anything. That's how I feel. I feel like June came and I went offline for like 2 weeks and I had a spiritual retreat. And since I've been back, I've had no time to process anything, to think about anything. It feels like there's so many thoughts competing in my head for attention, from marriage to stability to it feels like everything's opened up. And sometimes instead of analyzing one thought or a myriad of them, it's easier to just say and not do anything because it feels again like there's no time. So one of the things that I have yet to process is turning 35. And I know for some people that might be nothing, but for me, it feels like this is an actual milestone. I'm really grateful that it's coming. But like 40 is approaching. And what does 40 approaching mean to me? And what does it mean based on what the world has told me? But I've got 10 days to process that. It's not going to
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a thing also about 40. And I don't, because the thing is, when I got to my 30s, I was like, oh, I can breathe a sigh of relief because I feel like my 30s match up with the person that I've always been. Like, I have never really felt my age as much as I have, as in like that my age matches who I am rather than felt my age. Ouch, my knees, my back. um, as much as when I've been in my 30s. Like it really suits me. And now I'm like, but then soon I'm going to be 40. What does that mean? Am I going to inhabit my 40s, or am I now going to feel like I am older than I really am, because I've always, sorry, I'm younger than I really am, because I've always felt like I'm older than I really am. And then now I've kind of like almost spent a decade feeling like I'm just right in terms of age and maturity and whatever, like it's matching up. And then now am I going to overtake it and then feel like, oh no, actually I'm still just younger? I don't know.
I want to say, like, my 30s have been amazing. It's been very liberating. It's the best decade of my life in terms of, I think, also being a female in this world. I've told a lot of people, oh, just wait until you turn 30, things get better. But I don't think that's true for everyone.
I agree.
What I am realizing, because I said to a friend the other day, like, when will I ever stop being 7 years old?
Yeah.
And
I'm not agreeing with you because you're 7 years old. I'm like, it's because because I am also 7 or 12 or whatever.
yeah, it's like all of these like pivotal ages where something happened generally that you remember. And this friend, and I'm mixing the two conversations up, but she also said that like the pain onion and the layers and all of the stuff. And I think what I'm more becoming to believe about age is you never are the age that you are, because you can always access these past parts of you and they are 100% real. Me last year feeling 16 to 17 was such a real experience. Even the smells had changed. Maybe I am mentally a little bit cooked. Fine. But that's what it was to me. And I feel that when you're 70, you probably are still going to be 7 years old in many regards. And that's also a really cool thing about getting older. You have so many more touch points. Where it's like we're trying to convince ourselves that it's cool getting older. I'm not trying to convince myself. I'm trying to convince anybody who because that's my job, to convince people. Hey, turn 35.
It's good here. We've got cake. Yeah. No, I'm not 35, by the way. I don't remember being 35. I was.
It was like last year. What's wrong
Yeah.
with you?
No, it was like it was 3 years ago. I don't remember my life 3 years ago. Well, no, I do remember my life 3 years ago. I just don't remember specifically being 35. But that's also specifically because I am more excited about prime numbers.
Yeah,
So,
37 was really.
37. It was good, yeah.
So we were going to talk about Instagram and edges. Are you still feeling that?
The thing about edges, I do feel like that is speaking to me because, but I don't want it to turn into a rant. But I think it was a while back, Tamara and I were having a conversation about people who are just implausible. The question was, where the fuck are your edges? Like people who don't seem to have edges. And it's like, and like sometimes I just feel like I feel all edge. I feel like a spiky edge bomb or whatever, and I hardly ever feel smooth. And when I do feel smooth, I feel like I'm making myself smooth, I'm making myself palatable, I'm making myself digestible. But the real me has edges and has spiky bits, and both for myself and for other people. And yeah, it kind of angers me when I see people who are like seemingly like living their best artist life and they have no edges. I don't know. I maybe this is just me being cynical maybe, but I kind of want to call bullshit on that. But then at the same time I can recognize that maybe I'm just jealous. Maybe I'm jealous that like some people do not have these edges and yet they are real fully fledged whole people. I don't know.
So I forgot about that conversation. Thank you for reminding me. And I recall now what it was I was feeling. I don't feel that way about everyone. I'm inclined to believe that people are mostly honest. However, there is a portion of me, I think, that's wising up, that's not as naive anymore, realizing that what we see on social media is not a whole. It is honest, and we know it, right? But like realizing how deep that goes, that it is just one strand of the person. It doesn't mean it's not real, but it's a very specific strand that they've decided to show. I can just use myself as an example there. I don't think you'll ever see me being particularly cuddly towards Mihao, my partner, my husband to be. But that is 100%. I don't know how many times I've said 100% in this podcast, who we are. And it's just a curated experience. But it's also about what you choose to curate that's, I think, bothering me. And it's this same thing that you said, like this high artist life, 5 million, I don't know, 5 million paintings a day, 5 million subscribers. I've made 1,000K by doing this marketing program. That's a part of it. But also the other part, like love and light. I don't know who shared this. I think it was Andrea. I cannot say her surname, from Creative
Schroeder.
Yeah, Schroeder from Creative Incubator, which is like, if you are a part of the wellness community and you're not talking about white supremacy or white privilege or things like that, you are a part of the problem. And that's
you can't opt out of politics.
Yeah, you can't opt out of it. And that's, I think, the thing that bothers me the most. And I'm not talking about politics in a way to divide people, because obviously that is a part in some way of politics. But I'm talking about the shit that's actually not politics, it's human rights. And that's the stuff I think that bothers me about No Edges. Yes, you have a right to not talk about politics, but I think Suzanne early, who was on our podcast, it's like I keep on throwing back to the past episodes, who said, by being inclusive, you are already excluding people. And it's that kind of weird inclusivity.
And she said that she's okay with that, which I think is important to say as well, because
100%. But it's those people who are not okay with it, but like it's like they're pandering to both sides. And I think that's the part that's irritating me about No Edges, if I kind of recall what I was talking about. And I think I was also talking about being in a certain program and being the darkest face, and it felt a bit like the old token. And you gave me a lot of, and I think Alfie. I've mentioned every single guest we've had.
If they gave you a seat at the table, then
take
occupy
it.
that.
Yeah,
take it and occupy that seat
it's
and use it.
still so fucking disturbing to see like you're the only dark face on the panel and be like, oh, is that why I'm there? And that extra pressure to prove yourself, because then you want to show people that's not why you're there. So I think that was the part about Edges wrapped up in a bow. Did we both rant? Are we both rant-free now?
Yeah, we're rant-free.
The currency of South Africa, the country that I come from, is called rand or rand.
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 Did I say that right?
Yeah. But you're saying it probably the original OG way that it should be said.
Oh, I see. Like, but I was like really channeling my grandmother there, like doing my rolling R. She would always be like, "You need to roll your R's more." I'm like, I don't roll my R's in Dutch. I mean, obviously, I don't roll my R's in English because it doesn't exist. Anyway,
Iris, are you Dutch?
Have you mentioned yet that you're South African? Because I don't know if you've like.
I have. You have. It's weird. I was talking about nationalism the other day and how what I do it's not nationalism, but sometimes how we can confuse like being a patriot with being a nationalist, like those two things are so intertwined. I don't know if maybe I am a South African nationalist. I don't get paid to say that I'm from South Africa. I just do it because I have to. We have a quota. Like, I get together with other South African artists like Kaylee and Claudette Hasenjager. We have like our little South African secret group. We just pretend like we don't know each other. And then I'm like, Kaylee, okay, you had 50, but I've already gone 20 over. And I just take it. Look at me pretending like I'm so like, Kaylee Craig. By the way,
this has now become a hit list of like, can we mention every single person who has come on previous episodes to talk to us? I think we've the only person you haven't mentioned yet is
there's two.
I'm thinking of someone with a different first name and it's the same surname, and now I'm like, oh shit.
Okay, let me give you a clue. The first one is he writes theme music for roller coasters.
Oh yeah, I was literally just looking at his face. I ran into him the other day. I saw him the other day. Anyway, yeah. But that's not who I was thinking of. That's Eamon O'Dwyer, everyone, my choir musical director. Go and listen to that episode. It's very good. The other episode that you need to go listen to is Olivia Miller.
Yes.
Like the name dropped. I didn't look it up. The name just dropped into my head.
I I was looking at you so intensely.
No, but it's like because Tamara, you've introduced me to this person called Amanda Miller.
Yeah.
Who has the same surname but is not South African, is American, I think, and who makes hilarious videos.
Oh, she's the best.
And then I got confused, and I was like, oh.
I don't know if it is Miller though, or if it's Miller, because in South Africa, I think we're maybe saying it a little bit differently. But yeah, now we're mentioning all our friends just to prove we have friends.
Yeah.
Speaking about friendship, I've made a new friend, and I think it's important to talk about it on the podcast. But the reason is, I often think that I'm very unique and very weird, and lots of people cannot identify with me. And increasingly, I'm finding that's not true. And making a friend as an adult is really difficult to do, especially when you have this childhood experience or teenage experience of friends. It happened very naturally. And she asked a good question, or we were talking about like what are the not the tenants, like the tick box of what makes a friend. Like, how do I know somebody can be my friend? And we've said this a million times, but just the energy that I get back from the person is so much more than the energy that I put in, and that is already my green flag. And it's very interesting to me. Like, you have a lot of friends, in my opinion, and I've always wondered how you how you do it and how you have so many friends. How do you find people? I don't mean this in the way it's going to sound. How do you find people that want to be friends with you? Again, another thing I haven't thought about, but it's just so exciting for me as an adult to have made a friend and to not feel extremely irritating, or that this person doesn't want to talk to me and they feel forced to do it. And I think a part of that is because of you also telling me, like, what you give attention grows. And also, the way you behave to others, you automatically will assume they are going to behave towards you. So if you're speaking to someone just because you have to, then it's going to be so easy for you to apply that same filter to somebody who's speaking to you. So I don't know if anybody here is an adult like me and doesn't have that many friends and wants to make more. It's absolutely possible. But you have to go to Iris for art coaching first.
It's funny because I know I do have a lot of friends, but I also don't have a lot of close friends because I think that having now all my friends are going to be like, "What? I'm not your close friend." No, I what I mean is like, okay, so again, to have the analogy or the example being my relationship with my husband, like he is the person I'm closest to, who knows me the best, who knows the most about me, who I'm closest to, and I think that's just because of time and proximity. And the thing is, you can't have so if that's the benchmark of like someone who really knows me, the only other person who knows me that much, I guess, but in a different way, would be my therapist. Like, he knows me emotionally, I guess.
So you say.
But not necessarily in practice, like, in daily lived life. It takes time. It's a lot of time investment for you to be able to relate to someone that much and for them to know you that well. It really just requires time, and you don't have that much time to have loads and loads of like really close friends. So that's not to say that you can't feel as strongly about a person who you're not as close to as someone that you are close to, because you love your friends and stuff. But the real kind of lived and experienced closeness you can only have with a very small amount of people, I think, because it requires so much like time and interaction and communication, to build that.
Well, I think it's also important, like what you said, there's a difference between friends and close friends. And you've also insulted all your friends, by the way. I'm not
Yeah,
including
sorry.
myself. I'm not insulted. You insult me all the time. Not true.
But
Um,
also, I do count you as one of my close friends, so
yeah, I was quite confident.
yeah.
What you say is exactly right. Like, just how you probably wouldn't be able to have more than, well, you can have more than one husband, but I don't believe. Oh, now I'm gonna like upset poly people. I don't know how deep of a relationship you could have with, I don't know, 10 people. And I'm talking about like multiplying or dividing this relationship you have with your husband. I'm saying 10. So if you have 9 husbands or 9 lovers, you're okay. And to know that you can maybe only have 3 or 5 close friends, I think is really freeing, because to me, I don't know how many friends is the right amount. I know I need to trust myself, but it's a difficult thing for me to do. The other thing is, there are people, though, I just want to make a disclaimer, that you can totally click with in a second and it feels like you've known each other for a while. But I think that's also got to do a lot with like hormones and all of these chemical reactions that are going through. Like, it almost feels like a first love that makes the experience so much more intense. So if you have that, like, use it also if you're making a new friend. It's not, well, I hope it's not weird.
Hmm. I also think that in a way, I think I do have a lot more friends now. I didn't have any friends in my 20s. Like I had some friends. I had my old friends from high school, and then I had some friends that I made in at university. But I didn't have any friends like around me very much. And also, I guess I felt so unwantable that, like, even if people wanted to be my friends, I'd be like, oh, well, they're so much better than me. They don't really want to be my friend, type of thing, which definitely, like, stood in the way of me developing close friendships with people. But that's slightly different now. And I think what is also really important is that you're open to making friends, but you're also open to walking away from friendships that are not right, because that way, you know, you're not like, oh gosh, this person's my friend now, pressure, pressure. It's like, well, you know, your friendships, they grow and they wane kind of naturally. I can think of some people who've become better friends and some people who've kind of just like fallen by the wayside, and they're just like, they're kind of more like acquaintances now. And it's just, it's a bit more of an ebb and flow, relaxed way of thinking about it. And again, having that faith that the path will appear in front of you, and that things develop. I don't want to say as they are meant to, because I don't necessarily believe in that, but as in, like, if you have a relaxed attitude towards it, then it can just be or not be, depending on how things feel for both people, I guess.
I hear you. I need a lot of practice on the letting go of a friendship. And it's probably from Barney, Barney and friends, like, oh, friends are forever. And that is difficult for me because I can't understand like how once people could be so connected and then they can drift apart. But I will say that in the past year, I'm finding it a lot easier because, as somebody quite smartly said, for me, my currency, like, what is your currency? My currency is time. And as you mentioned, time is one of the important components. And I don't have like this money to waste, currency, time to waste. So sometimes like friendships are going rotten or they need to just be put on the back burner for a while. And it's so okay. And maybe looking at it that way, that it's not, it's like you wasting money. I don't know how important money is to everybody else. This just did not make sense. I feel like I just fobbed the whole thing. Look at me being so self-conscious.
Time is your currency. I get it. No, I feel like it makes sense. And that made me think about another friend of mine who is a really close friend of mine, but not with that time investment. But then whenever I see her, we're like, I just want I want all the conversation. I want all of it. And like she feels the same way about me, which is really nice. And it just like, then it doesn't matter that time has passed in between where we haven't seen each other or even spoken to each other, but it's like we're always thinking about each other. So, you know.
Well, it's like this metaphor, like if time is the currency, that was your investment, and it's something that's still actually going on. That investment still exists, which is really cool. I also have a friend like that, Iris.
Amazing. I want everybody to have a friend like that.
Yeah, I don't know what we spoke about. I don't know if it's time to fuck off, but make a friend. So I wanted to make a friend, like besides you, because I can't always be speaking to you. And I was having a lot of like resistance around some other stuff. And then I think I said to you, instead of putting all my energy into resisting and like fighting against the stuff that I don't want to do and doing it, I want to invite in the people I want more of. And as soon as I did that, without the intention of necessarily becoming friends with a lot of people, that's when the one like person kind of appeared. And it might be it might be 9 for you, as we established 10 is too much. Um, but I think it's also just that opening up, and you said it too, opening up to friendship, and then making sure you are not just opening yourself up, but opening up the pathways or the lanes for that person to get to you. So make a friend because we said so. Will you be my friend? Tick yes. Tick no.
Are we still at that part of our relationship where you're like wondering whether we're friends?
It's so weird because can I talk about my personal shit here?
Yeah. Isn't that what
Okay.
we do?
Yeah. So I've invited Iris for my wedding, whether she's coming or not, TBD. And I was sitting down and I said to Miha, like very casually, okay, so Iris and Andrew, like we need to decide how we're going to sit and stuff because I don't want my friends to be like sitting in some corner with people who speak Polish around him. And he was like, yeah, okay, which Iris and Andrew? I looked at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, Iris and Andrew.
Mihao is no longer my number one fan. I'm so hurt.
No, but like he's really super stressed out with like everything that's going on, because it's more than the wedding that's going on. Just by the way, oh my God, send me your sympathy. I was like, Iris, and he's like, oh, Iris, and he's like, Iris is coming to our wedding, and I was like, yeah, and he's like, geez, can you believe that? And I was like, yeah, I can. And he's like, no, Tamara, can you believe that? Like, think about it. Like, go back to who you were 3 years ago. And I was like, I would have shat my pants if I thought that Iris Fritschi-Cussens, who I've just done a lesson from, is coming to my wedding. And in that moment, I didn't feel like your friend. I felt like somebody who just tricked you into this whole thing, and now suddenly you're coming to my wedding. But otherwise, when people don't remind me that you're Iris Fritschi-Cussens, then yes, I feel like your friend. So I've just saved your name on my phone as Iris F. Like, that helps me.
Yeah. Well, geez, you make me sound like a celebrity. I'm just me. Wow, now that we've made everybody really uncomfortable, including me, shall we wrap this up?
We should.
Yeah.
In a lovely bow.
Well, no, we've already done that. Like, we did that throughout the whole episode. But I just want to say, thank you. Welcome to season 4. Thanks for listening. We just wanted to have a casual episode, because casual is our middle name.
Sex is your last name.
What?
Sex is your last name. Casual is your...
What? Oh my goodness. Yeah, okay, great.
I really miss talking to you, and as much as I love having guests and I love other people's opinions, I love your opinion the most, and your experience.
Yeah, I love my opinion as well. I love how you set that up for me. Thank you.
So it's been a real treat to talk to you again, and I think it will be a real treat for people to hear us again, not being as serious as we have been being with guests. We were not serious.
So that's kind of our plan. We're a little bit of them, a little bit of us, and we hope you enjoy listening to Not a Real Artist.
Don't forget to stick around for the key takeaways. 1. There is no switch that takes you from being busy with work or life to being creative. It instead takes time and space. 2. Sometimes being pulled away from your art practice mid-flow is painful. In these instances, we might decide we don't have enough time to enter and enjoy the state of flow, so we may not engage in the entire practice. 3. The journey of painting or moving closer to oneself is a path. You are already on the path. And even when you aren't actively making or producing art, that struggle is still considered movement along said path. 4. We feel a frustration when we see people who appear to lack authenticity or edges on social media. 5. The complexity of social media personas exists, and what people share online is only a fraction of their true selves. We too have curated ourselves online. 6. There is discomfort in seeing people online in our communities who ignore topics of human rights, yet talk about love and light. 7. Making friends as an adult is challenging but possible. 8. Friendships are an investment and need to be reciprocal in energy. We also need to be mindful of the ebbs and flows of said friendships. 9. Remember to create space for friendships and be intentional about inviting those connections in and terminating them when they aren't right. Thank you for listening to Not a Real Artist. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can mail us at notarealartistpodcast@gmail.com. We'd also appreciate it if you take the time to rate, review, or even share this podcast. Until next time, goodbye. We thought we were going to have nothing to talk about, and here we are 31 minutes later. We spoke about everything.
We've spoken about a lot of things, yeah. And my cat also wants to be on the podcast. I don't know if you can hear.
sweet.
No, not sweet.
Also, anybody that's listening to this podcast, you're invited. Make sure this airs after.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Okay.